Welcome to Intuitive Seek. My name is Mary Treen, and every week I aim to bring you a grounded approach to all things intuition. Through personal stories, experiences, and practices, offering energetic reflections to help you discover, connect, and fully realize how your unique power of intuition is your own greatest teacher. Hello, welcome everyone, welcome back. Welcome to our new listeners. Welcome. I feel like the beginning of this podcast, it is important to just take a second and find your breath and maybe relax your shoulders, maybe relax your tongue. We always forget about our tongue, but the tension in our tongue is connected so much to the tension in our jaw and then our neck and our shoulders and all of it. So yeah, give your tongue a little attention to release the tension. How has the rest of July been for you? I have heard different things from different people, but I guess the consensus would be that it has flown by. No surprise there. Kind of the whole year is like that. And that it hasn't been the smoothest emotionally, but not just the kind of tougher emotions. The consensus was that there has been some highs and some lows, that there has not been a lot of in between. So if that has been your experience, you are not alone. And yeah, sometimes those points in our lives when there are the highs and the lows, it can feel a little bit extreme. It can feel like untethered. And, we are no stranger to that. Even if you had the smoothest life ever, in 2020, everything kind of changed. And even if we weren't wanting it, we all sort of became more astute, more educated on how to navigate such extremes in how we're feeling. So maybe remind yourself of that, of how often you've moved through emotions like that in your past and how it brought you to where you are right now. It's all part of it. I mean, that is one thing. When you do realize that you're feeling an emotion, you're definitely present. You're definitely living your life. You are in it. So, one positive, two positives. So before I get into the energy impressions for August, I say that with, exclaim, with excitement, with a question mark, because wow, right? August 2022, amazing. But before we get into that, I wanted to thank the beautiful souls, the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people who joined my workshop last week. Share Your Voice, the intuitive podcasting workshop. It was so much fun, and I know many of you couldn't make it and that you needed to watch the replay, and that is great because I love a replay. So not making it live unless it's something that needs to be live, like if they're like true activities and things you're doing with the group. But this workshop was not like that. You could really receive everything through the replay. And I've already had some really lovely feedback. So thank you so much to, yes, all of you who joined. And if you missed out, don't worry. It will be available for purchase on my website next week. So yeah, stay tuned for that. The easiest way to stay in touch is through my Treen Light Letter, which includes the Lighthouse Letter, which is every Sunday, an intuitive, energetic snapshot for the week ahead. helping you navigate through and offering some different ways to kind of tune into your own intuition. It's so fantastic. I love it so much. I love it just for myself, and other people are loving it too, which is the coolest. So yeah, you can subscribe to that, and then I will always let you know all the updates and also some great discounts and exclusives on workshops and courses coming up. And of course, you could always just follow me on Instagram too to stay in touch. And the link to that is in the show notes as well at Treenlight. But yeah, that's a great way to check out to see all the exciting things that I'm making for you. So yes, thank you for your support always. It is such a insane, grateful, loving, unbelievable, beautiful thing. So thank you. They're all the adjectives that I could think of. Okay, let's talk about August. Let's talk about the energy impressions that I'm feeling and that I feel will help us navigate through the month and really get that clarity around how you are meant to kind of move through the month for your highest good. Because of course, with any, energetic impression, any astrology, anything that's like a tool to help guide you, they're always a tool, right? So it's not leading you, it's supporting you. And there is also your own narrative. What's going on in your physical reality and your inner world, that is always going to be different. But my aim with these energetic impressions is that it sparks a little bit of interest, a little bit of attention, a little bit of curiosity to where you maybe are meant to move through and what you are meant to move through, which is really lovely and one of my favorite things about the Lighthouse Letter too, because they're all just ways to support our own journey of trusting our intuitive voice and our intuitive guidance and however we receive it and how our intuition speaks to us. Because, it's almost been 2 years for this podcast, but it still is about reminding us, and I include myself in this, that we are our own greatest teacher. And speaking of teachers, let's get into August. So for August 2022, although I will say, even if you're listening to this in 4 years, everything that I'm saying may resonate with you because that's just the nature of it, right? We look for the things, we are guided towards things, we are pulled towards things that will help us in the moment. So even if you are listening to this in the future and it's not August, I think it will still resonate with you. And if this is 4 years from now, I would love for you to send me a message saying that you are listening to the August 2022 in 2026. Okay, 2026, that is a mouthful. How are we going to say that? All right, well, we'll stick with 2022 for now. All right. So yes, speaking of teachers, when I was feeling into it, immediately I thought of this poem that I wrote last year. And it's a poem all about surrendering, about living through not knowing the answers to everything, doing the thing without knowing exactly if it's the right direction, but surrendering to life. And maybe I'll read the poem at the end, just so you can hear it, because I wrote it in a way where I was asking for all the things that I would think would make everything that I wanted to do in my life come so easily. But then is it something that we really want if we don't have to work for it? I mean, it's the old adage. And I find that surrender can kind of come with that cliche as well, where it's just surrender, just let go, just, go with God, surrender to the universe, just let go, release the grip, all the things. But I know, especially if you are a creative person, more of a heart-led creative person who may also have their own business, that is very difficult to do. Because, and like most of us these days, even if you aren't specifically that type of person, we have our hands in so many things. We are doing so many things at once. Knowing our direction, knowing the outcome, knowing what's coming next, that's helpful. That gives that sense of security or illusion of security. Because as we know, things change in a moment. So when that poem came to me and I thought, oh yeah, that poem. And it's one that it starts out a little bit intense because I wrote it feeling very paralyzed by what choice to make because I didn't know. Even though I had already worked so much on developing my connection to my intuition, I was working in a beautiful new business that was created by me and working with people from around the world, I still wanted to know. I wanted to know so badly. So I wrote the poem kind of in response to that. And then that poem reminded me of this scene in a movie. It was a lot of media inspiration for August, which I totally get because my birthday's in August. August is a time for Leos, definitely some late July Leos, some of my favorite, my father included, and a couple of friends as well. But August is kind of that Leo season that most people think of. And, Leos, we love expressing ourselves in the archetype of that big, beautiful, courageous, heart-filled lion. That to me sounds like the highest expression of our creativity. So yeah, it makes sense that I had this kind of media as inspiration for the energy of August. So the second thing was kind of a scene from a movie that I think about sometimes, but haven't in a while. And it's from the movie Contact. If you've ever seen it, it's Jodie Foster, it's Matthew McConaughey. It's about first contact with life outside of our planet, and it is pretty fantastic. Like, it's a great film. I love it. But there's a part of it too that I thought of, which is all about more and more about surrendering and why surrendering is so important. So there's this clip scene of Jodie Foster, and she's in kind of a space vessel, I'll say, without trying to spoil it if you've never seen it, but it, did come out 30 years ago, so you've had a chance. But I don't think this spoils it too much. So she's in a vessel, and she is in a seat, and she's strapped in. So she's got her kind of harness on, she's in the seat, she's going pretty fast, almost like a rocket, and the seat is pulling her, and she's becoming very uncomfortable. Like, it's pulling her in. She's got kind of like the G-force. She is moving in like a shaking way. It's looking like it's going to be actually pretty dangerous, like something could happen to her. But then she saw one bolt come off of the seat. Now, this is part of my memory, so forgive me if it's not exactly how it happened, but I feel like it's pretty true to the story. So there's a bolt that comes off of her seat. So that bolt kind of snaps off into the surrounding space where she's in this kind of capsule rocket type thing. And she is in this seat that looks like it's going to break apart and maybe tear her apart. And then the bolt snaps off while it looks like it's going to break the whole seat. But then she sees the bolt move right in front of her face in the smoothest kind of flow of ease, just suspended in the air, not struggling. And she was like, well, that's interesting. And then she has this pocket watch that's really important to her, and it comes out of her pocket while she's moving around. And she sees it go up and start to float away. And she is having a completely different experience than the pocket watch and the bolt, because she's still strapped in, holding on, struggling, so scared, all of the things. But she sees the pocket watch and the bolt. And so she puts her hand out towards the pocket watch, and her hand kind of moves up a little bit. And so she takes off the harness and takes off the rest of the seat, and she starts floating too. There is no problem. She's not in any more distress. There's no shaking, terrifying struggle. And as soon as she lets herself out of the seat that she was holding on for dear life, when she lets herself out, she just kind of floats with ease without any kind of force, just slowly towards the pocket watch. And I love that that scene came to my mind because, yes, that is surrender. When we are holding on so tightly to our expectations, to the outcome of what we're making and creating and doing, when we are literally having like a death grip, not literally, it's a figure of speech. When we are having a death grip on the thing that we feel is what we need. So whether that be the outcome, the client, the praise for your creative project, whatever that be, if you hold on tightly, there is no room for you to be guided and just to go with the flow, which, as annoying as that sentence can be, it's the truth. Because life is changing every moment. So unless we are able to trust ourselves in our decisions, how else are we going to be able to just go with the flow and receive and achieve those things that we want, or the things that we hadn't even thought of, that were even greater than what we thought of? But it also reminds me of holding on to what no longer serves us or that we need anymore. That honoring things that you've grown out of, things that aren't for you, instead of holding on to them and trying to make them fit into the new thing. Sometimes we have to let go to make space for the new thing. And it can feel so uncomfortable. And that's why I love that Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey hit. Well, I'm not sure if it was a hit, but it should have been. I love that I remembered that scene for August. Because yes, it is a perfect visual representation of what trusting yourself and your intuition so perfectly, which means fully, can do. And how so often we are in our own way. We are making it much more challenging than it has to be. Whether that looks like overthinking or asking 100 people for their advice when really the answer is inside, but we just don't trust it because it's coming from us. And that really goes back to our worth. How worthy do we feel? And you can tell because how much do you trust yourself? How much worth do you give your own word? And that's a really big part of being able to surrender, to navigate the unknown, which I feel like August is really going to be a big part of that, of us exercising that, of being okay with feeling like you've jumped off the cliff and you haven't found the land yet. That is kind of where the beautiful things can happen, even though it feels like that is where the scariest things happen. And then the last thing that came to me for August, which I love, another form of media, was a story that Oprah always tells. And it was so funny because I was feeling into August, and then it was the poem, and then that scene from Contact, and then the story about Oprah. And I was like, am I flipping channels in my intuitive brain? What is happening here? But because it was August, then I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That creativity, co-creation, like everything that I'm sharing is something that was not made by just like one person. And I include my poem because I don't feel like any of us are making our art on our own. And I would say feel into that for yourself, whatever that means to you. And it's a great question to ask ourselves when we are creating something, whatever it is, whether it is traditionally looked at as art or something else for your business or in your home. Whenever you're creating something, you should ask, who am I creating this with? And I've mentioned it before, but inspiration comes from the root inspira, which is breath of God. So some would say I'm creating it with God. But some can also say that they're creating it with maybe their 8-year-old self who loved to do it and who is the muse for them that day. So a little sidebar exercise for you in your creative process. So the third thing that I felt was teaching us something for August was this story that Oprah always tells. And it's when she was up for the part of The Color Purple, the Steven Spielberg directed movie that she later on got an Oscar nomination for. She tells the story of campaigning for this part, that she wanted it so badly. It was her favorite book. She wrote, letters to Steven Spielberg. She prayed every moment of the day for it. She wanted it so badly, more than anything that she's ever wanted in her whole life. And the time was going by. She wasn't hearing back. And she could not stop thinking about it. And it was just taking over her life. Did she get this role? Was she going to play this role that she wanted so badly? And the way that she tells it is she was at her house and she was finally just so sick of thinking about it and spiraling through that she went into her garden and gave it to God and said, that's it. I surrender. Whatever will be, will be. And then the way she tells it was just moments later, who calls? Steven Spielberg with the offer for the part. And I love that story. I love it. And I don't love it for the somewhat magical equation of surrender and then immediately you'll get whatever you want, because I don't think that's true. But I do know that stewing and holding on to and not offering any space for what is really meant to happen does not help at all. So for August, is there something that you have been holding on to? Maybe it's a dream, maybe it's a desire, maybe it is a goal, maybe it's some kind of metric that you are basing something of importance in your life, whether it be your business or a creative project, anything. But what is something in your life that you can really surrender to. And I will offer that usually it's the thing that you want to do the least. The thing that you feel, but I need to keep my eye on that. Like, I need to make sure that everything is okay and that I'm doing all the things and checking on the like really holding on to it. If there's one thing in your life like that, what about for August, you, as an experiment, just let go, just surrendered, just made room for yourself, but maybe for some unexpected blessing, some beautiful, magical thing that you didn't even know you wanted or that could happen. Because when we hold on so tightly, when we refuse to surrender, the energy of that is, oh, I shouldn't trust myself. So in August, how can you trust yourself? How can you let go and just allow? What does that even look like to you? And if it's really challenging for you to do that, to just kind of let go of something that you've been holding on to so tightly, that may mean also that you need some more love, some self-compassion. And I'll talk about this more in another episode, but one thing that is not spoken about enough is if you haven't allowed yourself to be loved as often as you could have, if you haven't given yourself love as much as you could have, when you start to focus on doing that, it can feel really uncomfortable. It can be almost painful to receive love if you're not used to it. So if you are trying to surrender, you are trying to let go, it's hard for you, and you give yourself some love, you do some self-care, some real prioritization of your needs, and then that feels uncomfortable too, that's okay. Give yourself even more love after that. And if that sounds ridiculous to you, then maybe even a little bit more. And I'll leave us with these words that I wrote a while ago when I could not surrender. I couldn't. It was too hard. So I wrote the task. Please dig out my body and lay me as your skin. Fill my whole space with certainty, every corner with assurance. Place neatly inside all the roads I need to follow. Mark each cross with the right direction to take. Plant all the seeds I must nurture, so I don't lose anything I need to know. Bring back the memory of where to look. Remind me to surrender. Carve the words inside of me and make sure that I comprehend. Devour the static that only confuses my mission. Then please turn it into gold. Create the perfect container for me to always feel at ease. Take out my fear and replace it with love, so I can trust that my soul will honor my body. But will I honor my body? So I can trust that my soul will finally be seen. But will I finally see? That none of this is necessary, because everything I'm longing for, all that I am asking for, is already here, patiently waiting, but not for some grand discovery, for only a quiet and simple truth, a truth that unravels from the breath of remembering. Breathe in so that I don't let it slip away. Breathe in so that I feel every shadow left awake. Breathe in so that at last I can exhale. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Intuitive Seek. Please reach out to me with any questions, or if you wanted to share anything that may have come up for you during this episode, you can follow me or message me on my Instagram at Treenlight, TREENLIGHT, or you can check out my website, treenlight.com, TREENLIGHT. I will have all the links in the show notes for you to easily find everything, where you can learn about all the ways that I can support you. So thank you so much for all of your support. Be kind to yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hi, Auntie Mary. I just wanted to say something very, very meaningful. Cat.